We got a myriad of different things to cover with you guys today. Big surprise. The Super Bowl is definitely going to be part of that. Additionally, we'll be talking a little bit about Kyrie Irving and the curious trade to the Mavericks, which is looking better and better, frankly, for the Nets. Additionally, maybe we'll talk a little LeBron. We'll talk some Seton Hall in there, some weird Super Bowl bets that are out there because Vegas will bet on anything. But gentlemen, how the hell are you?
Doing all right, doing well.
I'm great.
Yeah, big news across multiple sports. This media week of Super Bowl kicking off, so lots to talk about.
Yeah, Tom Brady's retired again and officially is joining the Fox booth, which a lot of people are like, oh God, really?
I was under the impression, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're going to have a year of Tom Brady free, that they're letting Olsen keep the job for another year, and then they're bringing Brady in. That's what I thought I read today.
I know, but the very fact that he's joining anyway, I don't
believe it when I see it.
He's an unknown entity at this point. We don't know how he's going to be. He could be Carlos Beltran, who, by the way, is now with the Mets. So figure that one out.
I've always said that I don't see this working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either. He doesn't. You need a personality to work on TV, and Tom Brady doesn't have one.
Or a personality that jives, unlike, say, Dennis Miller, because that was a great experiment.
Yeah, but Dennis Miller aside, I'm trying to think if there's been guys who we didn't know had personalities who ended up. Oh my goodness, they have one. Like I would go with Greg Olsen. Like I did not.
Greg Olsen's been fantastic.
He's been fantastic, but if you had told me Greg Olsen has a personality that's going to work, I don't know if I would have known that ahead of time. So we will see. I'm in the chances that he's not going to work. I would say we knew Peyton had a personality. Peyton.
That's why I said Eli. That's why I said Eli.
The two of them on a tandem on ESPN is a solid one.
Yeah. No, but Peyton. I mean, I feel like Peyton would go on to SNL, and you're like, oh, this is where. Like Peyton was like Charles going on SNL. Like, okay, this is going to work. But Kenny the Jet, there's a guy who does a great job, who I didn't know necessarily had personality. While Shaq, on the other hand, we knew was all personality. So we'll see if Tom Brady can do it.
Peyton, we saw, though, back in Tennessee. Remember the famous scene where he's leading the marching band? Like, he had that personality from the start that we saw, and it just continued to transition into broadcasting and TV stuff now off the field. So Peyton, I always thought was there. For me, it was Eli, because under the Giants, especially under Tom Coughlin, it was I can't even repeat one quote Eli has ever said in New York, because he just got up there. He said exactly what he needed to say. Nothing more, nothing less. That was it. You could barely take quotes from him. And then he comes on. He's got his own, like the Peyton's Places on ESPN Plus. He's got his own Eli's Places with college football. He does the Peyton and Eli. I think Eli was very surprising for me.
Yeah, Eli was very Jeter-esque in that he would say words but not really say much of anything, when he was playing.
Agreed. I think I agree with both you guys. That I think we were saying the same thing. Peyton, not a surprise. Eli, a surprise. We'll see where. And I would say, by the way, on the other hand, Gronk is a disappointment. Like, because he is all personality, but he gets up there with those other four guys on the Fox Sunday show, and you're like, Gronk, you're not pulling your weight. Now, give him a year, maybe I'll figure it out, but time will tell.
Well, with Gronk, though, isn't he kicking like a field goal in halftime or something?
Yeah, you better win me some money.
Also, he's on the Fox pregame show, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, where he's not.
So it's not like he can really get in a word edgewise at that crew.
Yes, that is the problem. He cannot figure out how to get a word in edgewise with that crew.
Plus, I think he hasn't quite been able to balance the fine line between just a kind of regular professionalism. Not that he's not professional, but this kind of more traditional broadcast element with his personality twist on it, rather than all personality. And then it kind of becomes a little. He's still
like a few years ago when he spiked the Steve Harvey head
in that sense.
Yeah, no, I'm not writing him off, but that he's just an example of somebody I think we all saw going to the TV world and hasn't hit it yet. But give him time, because if not, we know he can do WWE. We know he's great as a character in many of his commercials. So time will tell. But probably, yeah.
Romo also surprised me when because I wasn't I said, really, they're giving him the number. They essentially fired Phil Simms from the number one from the number one spot with Jim Nantz for Romo, who had just finished playing. At the time, that seemed dumb, and then once you heard Romo, you said, okay, we may have something here. Although he's had a noticeable decline this year, like that. A lot of people, have said a lot on the internet about how Tony Romo hasn't been as good lately. Mm-hmm. But at first, he was fantastic coming out of it. So you really don't know what you're getting with a lot of these players going into broadcasting.
Right.
But well, time will tell. We'll see what if TB12 is any decent at this. But I don't know. Again, I will hold out shock if actually he's good. My opinion only.
Yeah. Olsen is fantastic and deserves to keep that top job.
Yeah. But irrespective, we may as well basically move on to actually what we're really trying to talking about here. Super Bowl 57. What do you say, gentlemen?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about this one, I think. Actually, let me put it this way.
Or the Kelsey Bowl, as it's being called.
Yeah. Well, see that we're going to break into this in a little bit, but there's weird Super Bowl bets, and one of them will be how often they mention the fact that this is the Kelsey Bowl. But Eagles Chiefs, I think, has the potential of being one of the best Super Bowl matchups in a very, very, very long time. My anti-Eagle sentiment here is obviously going to force me to have to pick the Chiefs on this, but Obi, we already know. So let's start with JD, I think, on this one, too. You've made it no secret in the fact that you want your neighborhood to be peace-free, no fires, and no Philly being Philly as far as fandom goes. What are you rooting for here? What do you think is going to happen?
I'm thinking the Eagles win this one by about 10. That just with Mahomes and the ankle, while he played better than expected in the AFC Championship, going up against the Eagles defense, I think is going to be a much harder.
One of the strongest defenses in the NFL, yeah.
Right. They were, I believe, the number 2 defense in the NFL all year, with San Francisco being number 1, and we saw what the Eagles did to the San Francisco defense this time around. Right. That's also part of it. Can the Eagles finally break through, or will this be the Philly hat trick of failure? Failure, of course, spelled with a PH in this scenario. With the Phillies, the Union, and now the Eagles getting their shot. Of three championships in the past few months. So we'll see if the Eagles can break through and finally get one. I think they will. I think that they're the better team on paper. They have more momentum. I've seen some trash talking on the internet about, they beat the Giants and Josh Johnson. So how does that show how good they are? They've been one of the best teams in the league all year. I think proves it. One of the best defenses. Hurts is now healthy from his shoulder injury that he missed some time for. And the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense last time out in the AFC Championship game had a hard time covering the Bengals tight end. The name escapes me right now, but Burrow kept throwing in the tight end, and he was just cutting through over the middle and carving up the Chiefs defense. So what's Goddard going to do to the Chiefs defense? I have a feeling it's going to be Goddard's going to have a big game with that, unless the Bengals really clue in on those adjustments. And I think the Eagles win this one easier than people expect.
Brandon, back me up on this one, please.
I've
Be all by
been waiting.
myself here.
Well, no, hold on. I've been waiting all week. You know, we were putting this off last week to try to save this for this week. With 1 week to go next Sunday, I've been really kind of decided what my thought was going to be, what my pick was going to be by, like, I would say Tuesday. I really going into coming out of the conference championship week, I took about a day where I was like, I wanted to process what I saw from the two games, kind of get a feel for the couple days. But like I said, by Tuesday, I was pretty certain where I was going to go. I think the Eagles are going to destroy the Chiefs. I really think this I even said it last week, this Eagles defense, I think some years from now, we will look back on them with a very historically favorable position where I just think they are so dominant on the front line. The secondary can cover both safety and cornerback positions. I think out of both of these two teams, first off, out of both conference representatives, I think we do have both the two best teams, both best NFC team and the most AFC team. But going up against each other, I really think the Eagles are clearly the better team. I mean, other than strictly the quarterback position and tight end position individually, every other knock I think goes for the Eagles. I think the key to this game for the Chiefs to have a chance is I think Kelsey and Mahomes are going to do their thing. He has a lot of wide receivers out. Juju is out. Blanking on a couple names. But basically, the other receivers are out, but his running backs are in. I think the key for Kansas City to have a chance to win this game is having the running backs being able to succeed out of the passing game. Because they'll be able to run. I think they'll be able to get some yards. But if he can create a passing game with the running backs to then kind of divert some of the pressure from Kelsey, I think that gives them a chance. But I can see this Eagles line destroying this Chiefs offensive line. And it could end up being what we saw with the Tampa Bay Kansas City Super Bowl a couple of years ago, where Mahomes was running around like a kid on a playground. Like it really was like a chicken without a head. He had no real outlet to try and execute an offense. And we saw how that game played out. And I think it can be, like Scott, like you said, it can be one of these all-time back and forth games, or I think it could be a very one-sided game. And I think that's going to be the case. I'm kind of with that 10-point win to 10, 8 to 12 in that range, maybe two touchdowns. But I think the Eagles win fairly convincingly.
Let me just say this, Obi, before I get to you. Logically, you guys are correct. I mean, this is a very, very strong defense here. All signs point to Philadelphia, but I cannot honestly go for the division rival that took my own team out of this. You know, I am aware of basically how strong the Eagles are. I am aware of how hobbly, Patrick Mahomes is. So I don't disagree with you guys anyway. I cannot go with Philadelphia on this. I just can't.
I get it.
But Obi, give me your thoughts if you should have any that are any different from anything that's been given so far.
So, I mean, I am actually going to pick this game under the auspicions that Patty Mahomes is 100%. What I saw against Cincinnati told me this is a guy who healed much, that either wasn't as injured as we were told, or is healing much faster than the average person, because honestly, he's still under 30. So, good for him. But this is a Super Bowl. The Kansas City has the best quarterback in the NFL and the best tight end. And that should not be ignored. On the other hand, the Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFL, including the best center, I guess genetics on, center and the tight end there. They have someone who this season you can argue is the best quarterback, not named Mahomes. I'm sure Burrow would argue with that, but you can argue. They have the best tight end, arguably, not named Kelsey. They have the best number 1 wide receiver, not named Jefferson or Chase, and by far the best number 2 wide receiver in Devonta Smith, who can team up against probably the top half of the number 1 wide receivers. Best defensive line, with all due respect to the 49ers, the best defensive line. 49ers outmatched them. Those linebackers were tremendous. And then the best defensive backs in the NFL. I said, and somebody accused me of being drunk after the Eagles won, that this team may be one of the best teams we have ever seen. And I stand by that the more I look at them. Now, if they go out and they beat the best quarterback in the NFL, and they beat him by 10 to 14 points, I think the people whose opinions sort of get fed down to us are going to agree on Monday. And here's the thing about Kansas City. They faced a 49ers team when they were full strength that got to Mahomes. That line was not the shredded line, but that 49ers team had 0 offense. They then faced a Kansas City team that had 1/2 worth of an offense, maybe 3/4, with Tom Brady, who we, in hindsight, can see was at the other end of his career, but a defense that dominated them. I think this is the 3rd great defense this team is going up against the Super Bowl. So all kudos to them. But now Mahomes takes up even more of that salary cap. And as good as Clark and Jones were in that playoff game, I think we saw what happens when you have 3 injured offensive linemen and no snow on the ground. So it's hard for me to truly evaluate that defense. I'm going to agree with these guys. I think the Eagles are going to win. I think it's going to be not as close as everybody says. I don't feel like it's going to be a situation where Mahomes is trying to win the game at the end and us feeling like he can do it. But it is hard to truly count out a great quarterback until the game is over. And that is why if the Eagles win, I think it's going to be that much better for the legacy of this team. So I think this is a team that's not just playing for a Super Bowl, but honestly for a legacy type season. And that's what excites me. As confident as I am that they're going to win, I would never put serious money against Patrick Mahomes. I'm placing my funny little bets on DraftKings, sure, but serious money against Mahomes, as confident as I am, I still wouldn't do it. He is just magical. And if his magic wins the day, I'll be disappointed and surprised, but not shocked. Disappointed and surprised. So I, too, will take the Eagles definitely to cover and probably in that 10-point range, whether it's like they're up by 14 and the touchdown scored at the end and then the onside kick isn't recovered. It's only 7 or something like that, where it's going to be like, it's not that. They had the game wrapped up. I think their defense is that spectacular. And the big difference that Mahomes hasn't faced in the Super Bowl, it's a team that has the offense that can go toe-to-toe like we saw 2 years ago against Allen and the Bills.
So basically at this point, unless we hear from Yersha and Demos has something different to say, I will be all alone in my prediction on this one.
I will say that Sammy can't stand the Eagles. So
okay, all right.
So you might have
Yersha's probably the same boat because he's a Giants fan. So
right. So you might
naive fools in my corner here.
Yeah. Or they could go Micah Parsons.
So
yeah, which is good stuff.
But if it really, the reality is when it comes down to it, we might have a really, really good matchup here. I think it's going to be memorable in a lot of ways. And of course, like many things that we also deal with, it also has the ability to be bet upon. So we are going to share this right here. I'm going to basically expand this out like so, I think. Oh, like that's a. So, like anything that we have, typically there's bettability is a big part of this. This comes from OaklandCountyMoms.com. Some of the weird bets that we've got coming up this year. National anthem is a regular one. Over 2 minutes, 5 seconds under. So,
do we know who's singing the anthem this year?
It's going to be Chris Stapleton. I don't know who that is, though.
I don't know who that is.
I know
Rihanna's doing halftime.
Country. I have a feeling with that one, he would tend to be more on the traditional side of singing the anthem. being kind of how much the America is kind of tied into, or at least so I think it'll be under 2.5 seconds.
Okay.
I think Stapleton prides himself on his ability to play the guitar, and anyone who prides themselves on their ability to play the guitar tries to be Hendrix when the national anthem comes. So I think, depending upon how much singing he does and what he wants to do with his playing, he could push it. But I would also go under. I just want to be, there.
Yeah, but he's probably coming out there with an acoustic guitar, no die cut, so nothing. He's not going to be able to get out there and do Hendrix stuff. So the gut instinct is to say over every single year, just because I would say these artists kind of want to milk their time on screen because they're not the halftime show. So I think they want to give themselves a little as much time as they can get. But I don't know. I think this year I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under 2.5.
I would go over. I mean, remember, I don't know if you remember, there's a bunch of years ago, Harry Connick Jr., I'm dating myself here, where he actually did it, and that thing lasted like 5 minutes. It was the longest one I think they ever had in Super Bowl history. And it dragged immediately right out of the gate. But yeah, that one's normal. Color the liquid basically poured on the winning team's head coach. That's a normal one there. Purple, indigo, or violet is actually kind of a rare shot. Andy Reid.
Yeah, the Gatorade one is always a fun one.
Oh, yeah, they're going to. I'm only getting 730. I'm not getting the full 1,000 on my app.
I'm gonna say blue.
All right, I'll go orange because it's usually Andy Reid special. Okay. Will Andy Reid wear a Hawaiian shirt during the Super Bowl? I'm gonna say no to this, but it's the fact that it's even a thing.
What do you mean during the game?
I guess underneath, yeah.
Please, cheeseburger before the end of the Super Bowl.
I know we haven't gotten to that one yet. I don't even know how that's a thing.
I'm gonna say no.
Most NFL coaches look like homeless people anymore. So,
will he eat a cheeseburger before the end of the Super Bowl? But remember, it's got to be caught on camera too.
He will not be eating a cheeseburger before the end of the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm thinking.
Is there a sponsorship tie-in for him to do that? Like, is Burger King sponsoring it, so he has to eat a burger on camera? Like,
First off, eat a burger during his interview, post game, but during the game, and that level of disrespect to start chowing down, like they did in the college football playoff game, is not in Andy Reid's B. That's going to be my answer there. But yeah.
First off, I think all this cheeseburger nonsense, I think, is all depending on if they win or not. Because if they lose, there is no talk or anything of cheeseburgers, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But if they win, and if they win, then I mean the cheeseburger possibilities are endless.
Yeah,
and the ham sandwich. He's a ham sandwich kind of guy, though, if I recall his quotes properly.
I think cheeseburger talk is really, really dependent on a win or not.
All right. Let's see. Celebrity special. Who do we see at the Super Bowl?
Kevin Hart.
I was going to say, Kevin Hart's all over the place right now.
Yeah, let's see. Who do we got?
Bradley Cooper, Philly. He's going to show up.
The Philly standards.
Yeah, Mike Trout's going to show up.
And Matt Damon for some reason.
Yeah. Pink is such a random choice, though.
No, she's from Philly. She's big Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw her do a show here.
Hey, what about Paul Rudd? What about Paul Rudd? No Paul Rudd on this list?
Dude,
Paul Rudd should
be on this list.
And he's got the new Ant-Man movie coming out too.
How is Paul Rudd not on this list? That's absurd. Paul Rudd should be the absolute front runner for this list, considering timing of Ant-Man, please, and his team.
Maybe that's why he's not on the list. Maybe he's already.
Is Kim Kardashian dating somebody playing in the Super Bowl? Why is she on this list?
Well, this goes to why is Kim there. This goes to the question that we never covered about moving the championship games also to neutral sites, and that these games just are people. There are famous people there just to be seen. It's the tickets are outrageous. The stadium doesn't have the same vibe as a regular football game, so it doesn't even have the proper Super Bowl vibe. So yeah, Kim Kardashian might be there just to be there. It's in Vegas, right? I mean, who's not going to be in Vegas?
It's in Arizona.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Pro Bowl's in Vegas.
Kind of an odd location. I mean, I get it, but yeah, it doesn't really have the appeal or the energy that a lot of other places would have.
Yeah. So unless you're a fan of like Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart's minus 250. I think they're giving away money there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
McElhenney could show up too. Because there's another Magic
Is
Mike.
Is Pink from Philly? Did somebody say? Is that why she's on the list?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Let's see.
She's from I think more of the mainline area, whatever that actually. I don't think she. Yeah, she's city folk.
But
God
who
and Jesus.
Always, yes.
Always.
Yeah. I don't know. I would say teammates. I'm gonna go teammates.
I'm gonna go thank God for the ability to be kind of that route first, and then they'll start rifling off teammates and coach and owner and all this. Yeah, no, God.
I'm trying to think who could win it that wouldn't say God based on what I know about them. I mean, I guess if Travis wins, he might thank his teammates first. If Travis Kelce
Mm.
wins, that's the it's like. Can I get if then here? If Travis Kelce wins, I might say he might thank his teammates before God and Jesus. But Mahomes and Hurts are both going to say God and Jesus. I've seen them thank those guys. Those guys do that many a time.
Yeah. And Pink is from Doylestown, apparently.
Okay. There you go.
Well, fan right out on the field. Again, you have to be able to see it, though.
No.
What team apparel will Drake wear?
Yeah, I know. Right? So, Kelce thanks his brother, whichever Kelce it is. So.
Well, that's what I was thinking, Kyle. I mean, yeah,
or his mom.
Or his mom, who I personally have signed the petition, which I know is not going to work on change.org, to get the Kelce mom to do the coin flip and make it the official Kelce Bowl.
That would have been interesting.
How many times is one of these bets over under of how many times they will show Mama Kelce on screen during the game?
No, unfortunately, on this list there isn't, but there should be.
Is it? There's still what side is she? So I listened to their podcast, the Kelce Brothers New Heights podcast. Here I am checking for somebody else. Good job, me. But they were debating whose side mom would sit on. Who would give her the tickets, because the one brother has a family and all the family's going to be there. So Travis is like, yeah, I should probably sit with you. I'll have a bunch of friends on my side.
Yeah. That one was one.
Or will she sit with the Kansas City group for one half and then the Eagles group for the other half? I could see something like that.
Yeah.
Or is it going to be one of those cases like back in 2003 when the Devils played the Anaheim Ducks? You had Rob Niedermeyer on one side, Scott Niedermeyer on the other. The mom very bluntly rooted for the one son who never actually won a Stanley Cup before, and rooted against Scott Niedermeyer and the Devils.
Well, in this case,
both of them have Super Bowls already.
Have Super Bowls. Yeah.
Are they even though? Is the question.
Yeah.
They each have one.
Yeah,
each have one.
Okay. So,
with Travis having this being his third having.
By the way, Kyle, the over/under on this one officially is 1.5. How many times they mentioned Brady? There's no way it's going to be under 2. I don't think.
That's way too low. I think
it's way too low. Yeah,
at least 3.
I saw that on another website. So
they shouldn't even be allowed to say his goddamn name.
They will. Yeah. Well, also they had that movie 80 for Brady too. So.
I'm sure that's.
Dude, that movie is getting crushed in the reviews. I was very surprised by that.
Predominant color of Rihanna's outfit: see-through.
Color, not
sequin, shiny.
All right, that's
shit.
Okay, so we know. So the point being, You're not even going with the in-game ones. Like, will somebody score an octopus?
Yeah, no. These are the weird bets. You know, color of Rihanna's hair.
There's a few of different ads.
All right, we've scrolled past like 3 different first advertisements, and they're all like different ones. Why couldn't we've just had one first TV advertisement and just rifled off a bunch of categories?
Isn't it Budweiser every year usually, or like more often than
like right there? What's the difference between? Just put them all on one list.
No, one is who's first overall. The other one is, will Doritos be before M&M's? Will Heineken be before Budweiser?
Well, M&M's has got Maya Rudolph.
They just, okay, all right, yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
yeah, between the two. So, that Maya Rudolph campaign, which is apparently getting lambasted, also.
The Mets are supposed to have some type of campaign.
Heineken versus Budweiser's. Butt wipers.
Yeah, I did see some of this. Steve Cohen dropped some money for an ad. I'm curious to see what they do, what the Mets do, what he and the Mets do with that.
Because as Steve Cohen said, I'm spending a lot of money and they're complaining about it. That sounds like a you problem.
He's right.
$458 million, I believe.
Like straight up though, but like the fact that there is an owner that will pay for Super Bowl commercial advertisement, a baseball owner, while other baseball owners won't even pay for players for their team.
Yeah,
is actually criminal. But that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother show.
There's your answer, Brandon.
Are you personally attacking me and Brandon here? Jeez.
He goes the Tebow route.
Deion Sanders has got nothing on this.
Deion Sanders could play baseball and had speed. What is Brady? Is he going to pitch?
Hey, he was drafted by the Expos, man.
Yes, 20
He's
years.
Apparently, a better baseball player in high school than he was a football player.
It's kind of scary when you think about it. So, or will he end up being another Drew Henson?
I mean, Drew Henson was the reason why he was drafted in the 6th. He fell to the 6th round in the first place.
Yeah, they really tried to get him going too, and never did.
Right there. How many times will Kelsey brothers be mentioned? Over 1.5
per quarter. This is more.
There is no other surefire 1,000,000% guarantee than over 1.5 times.
It'll be mentioned every quarter.
It'll be one.
Yeah, like 1.5 times per quarter. I could see, not for the whole game.
Yeah.
It'll be mentioned every time they switch off the field. Every time one comes off, the other one comes on. Oh, there we go, another Kelsey. How many times will you say, "Oh, there will be a Kelsey on the field near visual at all times,"
and they'll be panning over to Mama Kelsey each time.
Yeah.
To see her reactions every time one of them does something.
Well, because Travis is going to touch the ball targeted 10 times, even if he's covered well. And then Jason, well, I don't know. Have we not talked about who the 2 best defensive players on Kansas City are? And will they be lining up over Jason or Lane Johnson? I mean, every time that Frank Clark rushes and it's going to be talked about. Every time Chris Jones rushes from the inside, you're going to see Jason Kelsey there, and they're going to make a comment. So, yeah, these are 2 guys who are going to be unavoidable in the game. I mean, it'd be easier if it was like a left guard and if they were both like left guards, but the center who's going to be calling out the protections and the most important offensive player, not as a quarterback on Kansas City. It's ridiculous how many times it's going to be discussed.
Plus, they both have such personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like they're just, they just keep, head down. They're just guys playing football. Just happen to be brothers. No, they're 2 of the most, personable guys that this league has, regardless of position.
If the Eagles win this, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be building a statue of Kelsey in the Mummers outfit next to the one of Peterson and Foles outside the stadium.
They might build that even if they don't win. I mean, Jason Kelsey is beloved, right? I mean, but yeah, you get 2 Super Bowls, and it's only it's Kelsey, Fox, and Graham think those are the only 3 remaining guys.
Mm-hmm.
So those, and that's in 6 years. So those guys are going to really, party.
And Jackson Mahomes at least 3.
So, all right, what else do we got here? National anthem. Who gets shown first?
Ooh. That's a
Number of hot dogs sold.
Yeah, I know. I love that one.
honestly that's a real pick 'em. That's really such a either or.
Mm.
I'm going to go under because of the factor that you said before about the celebrities there just wanting to be there, and many of them are eating food more expensive than hot dogs.
I think 17,000 hot dogs. Just seems like a lot, but
Yeah. I'm thinking Invincible for the clip.
60,000
that's
person. Well, do they count it as sold if I order 50 for my box?
Yes, probably.
Is that even public information? How do you bet on that?
I don't know. Maybe they have it after the game. I don't know. I don't even like hot dogs anyway. I really hate them. This one.
Will Tom Cruise parachute into the stadium and deliver the game?
If you notice, it's not a hardcore no there either.
Negative 15,000. That's a hardcore no.
I've never seen
Not compared to that
negative 15,000 before.
That's like 1 out of 6, 7, I think.
Will the power go out?
I guess Tom Cruise did that before as well?
Would it surprise you if he did?
No.
I know Lady Gaga parachuted into the stadium during a halftime show one year.
She jumped down on wires, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she jumped off the roof.
Yeah.
But anyway, weird Super Bowl bets for you. Any final thoughts?
Not on weird Super Bowl bets. One of those crazy bets with crazy odds will hit, and you'll be like, "Oh, you should have bet on it." But
yeah, just like the safety as a first score.
Oh yeah,
what was the payout on that in that Broncos Seahawks?
That was the Seahawk Colts game.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving on at this point. This is going to be a topic mainly for the 3 of you gentlemen. Kyrie goes to the Mavs.
My good friend.
Yeah. At least he's no longer Brooklyn's problem anymore. But on the plus side, Brooklyn actually looks really good on this deal because a lot of pundits out there, and I think you guys may agree, are looking at this and saying this is kind of a risky maneuver by Dallas here. Who wants to roll with it first?
Well, so like Kyrie Irving, he's like the genie of the NBA. Phenomenal basketball power, itty bitty playing time. I mean, he's a problem. The other hand is, if you're the Mavs, you're giving away a first round pick. Now, last year I looked at first round picks, and I don't have the names here now. I can try to bring it up on my computer, see if it freezes. But only 6 guys picked in the top 10 won a championship for the team they were drafted on. So I don't think the first rounder matters if you're the Mavs. Like that first rounders leave their teams and win somewhere else. By the way, 2 of those guys were Steph and Thompson, so they were on the same team. So I don't think the Mavs gave up a lot to risk pairing Luka with somebody and seeing if they can make a run. On the flip side, I think the Nets actually got some decent guys to kind of see if they can pair with Durant and the pick who might pan out. Like I said, I don't have a lot of faith in first-round picks in the NBA. I think it's just like when the Nets traded last year for Simmons. It's an all right trade. I think it's a fair trade. It is. I can't wait to see Luka get to play with somebody else, even if it's Kyrie and he only plays half the games. But let's see what Luka can do with another person, whoever that person is, and really understand what Luka's game is like. That's what I'm excited for.
And also, if there's anybody who can actually get through to Planet Kyrie, it would be somebody else who was a diva point guard themselves. Jason Kidd, the Mavericks coach.
Maybe.
From the Nets standpoint, this is addition by subtraction, clearly. they liked Dinwiddie when he was with the Nets the first time around, and also he comes at a much lower salary point than the other players and other offers that were mentioned in the trade and other trade offers that leaked. Like Russell Westbrook and two picks, I think was the Lakers' offer. Then the Suns had Chris Paul, somebody else, and a pick. But Chris Paul, while he may have been a better player on the court this year, I think he has another 2 years on his deal. So the Nets probably didn't want to make that commitment. So this leaves salary flexibility. The salary flexibility in the picks in exchange for getting rid of a giant problem, it is a win for the Nets. And the Mavericks are just desperate because they've tried several different point guards to pair with Doncic, and none of them have worked.
Does the 2029 draft pick surprise you?
All that means is that they've traded the ones every other year until then. That's the first one that they have available, because the NBA has a rule where you can't, because it's called the Stepien rule in honor of the Cleveland Cavaliers owner in the early 80s who traded all of his picks almost every year. So they made a rule that says you can only trade your first round pick every other year. So if they're going out to 2029, that means they've already traded several picks away before then. So it really doesn't make a difference as far as, like the Knicks were something like 10 years backed up on picks for a while because they take their pick and throw it in the Hudson every year.
So, okay. From the Mavericks standpoint, it was surprising. I didn't see them trying to shop in the Kyrie market at all. And when I saw this news, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Luka Doncic and I read this, do you think his first instinct is happy, is like he's giddy? I can't see that because you look at a guy like Luka Doncic, an international player. The international players, guys like Giannis, and we've seen them throughout history. Especially now, the two big internet, Luka, Giannis, they are not from this American basketball system. They didn't come up on this AAU circuit where fifth graders are playing in their local, middle school gym with World Star and scouts. It's just no. They were playing they were just playing basketball, and so the way Luka is made up and the way Kyrie is made up, I've never seen a duo that is so polar opposite. Now we haven't seen them on the court yet, and we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, individually talented, they're both phenomenal. We'll see how they are as a duo on the court. But if I can't see Luka being really thrilled about this. And like I said, I'm surprised that the Mavericks did this because they gave up solid pieces that were important to the Mavericks Western Conference run last year that they could have used to continue to build upon. We know they let Jalen Brunson walk to the Knicks, which Kyle said, and I also agree. I think that was a mistake. But would you guys be surprised if Kyrie wasn't a Maverick in 5 months?
No,
not at all.
I fully expect that this is not going to work for the Mavericks. That Kyrie will leave as a free agent at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think this gives the Mavericks a chance to do, this is what I think is important, is we have Luka. Luka has been a solo act pretty much his entire career. I mean, look what Luka did as a solo act in the Olympics, okay? If we give him a stud, what does he look like on the court? I think that's what this is about. What does Luka look like on the court with a stud? And then do we chase some other stud who we can pair with Luka long term? Or does Luka need a bunch of guys like we've been trying to build around with him, a bunch of average guys? And I think that's really what this is about. What does Luka need to get that championship. I mean, I think it's going to be studs. I think that's just the NBA today.
An NBA championship, you need at least 2 studs, usually 3, for any team that has won a championship. They've tried. They tried Porzingis, that didn't work. Brunson didn't pan out, and when he did, they let him go.
Brunson wasn't Porzingis was a guy who was supposed to be that guy. Brunson was a guy who looked like, he's showing up as number 2. Would have been a great number 3, but they let him go because he wanted number 2 money. So I mean, I think it's a matter of just showing that Luka can play with somebody so that they can attract somebody else for a 5-year deal. That's my guess. Imagine Luka proves he can play with Kyrie. Anybody's like, I guess Luka can play with me. He played with Kyrie.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the goal here. Luka, play with this guy, be good about it, and then we'll be able to track free agents.
But that goes to my point. As not thrilled as I think Luka is about this, he'll still go out there and be like, all right, he's a Dallas Maverick. He's one of my 5 or 4 teammates on the court now. We're going. That's my guy. I just don't know if Kyrie is going to kind of have that same mentality, because that's what we've seen for years. Even going the minute he was drafted, we saw this, and especially after he finally won a ring with LeBron, and he thought that, well, now I can do it all. We saw him go to Boston, wrecking ball, Brooklyn, wrecking ball. There is nothing that. And I'm going to bring up the Nets because they are absolutely not going to not be talked about in this situation. But there is nothing to say that Luka is not going to completely destroy this I don't think he'll destroy this franchise, because I trust Mark Cuban and the way they run that team. Because the Nets, like I will get to them in a second, completely opposite. So from on the court, they really, their thing is we got to win now, and because the West is wide open. I mean, you have Denver and at the top, Memphis. Memphis is having issues, and they're becoming a very unlikable team. We're not going to talk about them. They're not relevant to this conversation. But from the Mavericks, they said, you know what? We were on the precipice last year in the Western Conference Finals with Kyrie, with Luka and Jalen Brunson. Let's go for it this year. But now to the Nets standpoint, yes, the whole addition by subtraction thing. You back Spencer Dinwiddie, who you had years ago, who never should have left. But I want to make this point. I think it is safe and fair to say that since becoming the Brooklyn Nets, other than the Jets and maybe the Giants, there is no other New York team as horrible as the Brooklyn Nets. I mean,
they're better than the New Jersey Nets were for the majority of the New Jersey Nets lifetime. I mean, you're a little younger, so you kind of remember like the golden days there of the New Jersey Nets. But overall, they're still the Nets. That'd be my opinion. But I think in terms of, I think this is about Dallas though, more than about the Nets. But let me pose a question to the two of you, and maybe Scott.
Well, because this is what the Nets got. They got Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie back, a 7th grader, and 2 9th graders. That's what they got. I'm just saying,
dude. We didn't want it.
But do you think that this could be what I'll call a slow 3-team deal? Could the Mavs move Kyrie themselves before this is all said and done? Because I will say, I do like even more than this. This is the one place where I could see Westbrook. Like, let Westbrook do his volume thing with Luka. Let Luka dish it out a little bit. So no, we don't see that as a possibility.
No, because then they would have had some 3-team deal proposed.
They were trying to loop in a 3rd team, but that didn't work out, and they ended up going through with this with the deal as constituted with the 2 teams. The more likely result, I think, is that if it blows up as badly as it could, that Doncic says, all right, get me out of here. And he's the next one to demand a trade. As far as the Nets go, I think Durant demands a trade before Simmons does. Simmons is probably just happy to get paid to just milk whatever contract he can get, whatever he can get at this point.
We now
to get
worry
paid
about
for doing
tomorrow
pretty
when we
much
get
nothing. some other team will be desperate enough to sign Kyrie. I don't think it'll be the Mavericks re-signing him, but some other team will be desperate enough to sign him as a free agent this summer. I don't know who that team is, but some team will be dumb and desperate enough to do it.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's going to blow up in the Mavs. I don't think they're going to give him they're not going to give him the long-term deal. So I don't think it's going to blow up. If it goes bad, is it a blow-up? It was an experiment that failed. I don't feel like it's a blow-up. Kyrie walks, they keep Luka, and they try to find some other pieces to put around him. If it works out, great. I just don't see it as blowing up. That's where the Nets, their situation blew up. They're sitting with Durant, who might politely not there's not a lot of time, so I'm not going to demand a trade. And then, I also not going to recover from this injury. Good luck with Simmons and those 2 picks you got from Philadelphia, and then demand a trade in the offseason. I think that's a likely scenario. Or, Durant wants that title that's not tarnished by going to Golden State. So I don't know that if he can come back, he probably does come back and gives it a run and see if he can get by the teams in the East and whatever out there in the West. Although I don't give him a lot of hope because I've seen Simmons in the playoffs as a number 2. And he's already not taking shots. Like, he just won't shoot. Like, he's like me out there. Well, but can play defense and is athletic. But when it comes to shooting,
Simmons is just useless and just trying to milk every dollar of this ridiculous contract, and then he'll probably retire. Like, I think he just genuinely has no interest in playing. He's just going through the motions, trying to get his money.
But
he will contribute nothing of any substance to the Nets or whichever other team that he ultimately gets traded to.
But here's the deal, though. Now, for the Nets, with Kyrie obviously not being a member of the team anymore, with Kevin Durant as your number 1, with him, forget even being injured and out of the lineup. With him on the bench, what are you going to get from this Nets team? Nothing. They are going to plummet. And I just think, like, you had to have gotten rid of him, but I just think there were better options to go there. And Joe Tsai, I want to blame the Lakers, but for the Nets to sit there and play this petty BS game and sink to the level of such immaturity where you would dig such a bigger hole for your team because you don't want to give Kyrie what he wants. He's not going to be on your team anyway. So instead of getting at least some type of offensive threat in a Russell Westbrook, forgetting the contracts as off the bench, he would have given you something better than Dorian Finney-Smith.
Why do you think that if you get Westbrook, you get to keep Durant? If you take Westbrook, you are saying goodbye to Kevin Durant.
Because you still control Durant.
If you can't control Irving and you couldn't control Harden, how are you controlling Durant? They couldn't control Harden.
I'm not saying personally. I'm saying contractually controlled.
I'm saying contractually also. They couldn't control Harden and they couldn't control Kyrie. If you bring Westbrook over there, Durant is probably
But that means
wasn't
Durant
what was said. But like, did Durant leave happy from Oklahoma City? Durant, you can't bring Westbrook and expect to keep Durant and have him playing. Ever.
That means then
Westbrook is also a free agent at the end of the season.
I agree. Right. I agree with that. You could say, hey, Kevin, listen, he's a free agent at the end of this season. We are not going to re-sign him for 3 months. Give it your damn best with him. We saw you with him for 7 years. And I get it, Obi. I get what you're saying. I just think that there were so many. This was not the trade that they should have made. Because I think Kevin Durant at that point would then request another trade, which would be his second trade request in less than a year, which means then between Kyrie doing it once, definitely once or twice, Durant then doing it twice, Harden doing it. That means you've had almost half a dozen superstar trade requests in 2 years. And if that, you could say all you want about the superstars, but if that doesn't show something about a franchise, then I don't know what does.
I think it says something about team chemistry, for the fact that all of these players are all about themselves and wouldn't know team chemistry if they were whacked over the head with a high school beaker set. So just these are all personalities. Every one of the players that was just mentioned, that they just don't play well with others. It doesn't matter who the others are. They just don't. And putting them with other big personalities that are the same is asking for trouble. It's like a bad fantasy team that they've been trying to force together for years. Truly, the best option for the Nets: trade everybody, blow it up, and tank and start over. That is the only thing that can help the Nets at this point, is to clean house, fumigate it, and just start over. Because this is a toxic dump that doesn't matter who else you're trying to bring in. There's no adult in the room. Jacques Vaughn, to his credit, is probably the best that you can get as coach, as far as him, just kind of trying to just maintain some level of peace, especially if they were going to run Steve Nash out of town. At least they didn't go through with that stupid Ime Udoka rumor. But just this team, I agree, Brandon. This team is an absolute disaster, and just
I've never seen
none of this is working. None of this is working. All of this for them to all. I mean, would the conversation be different if Durant didn't wear shoes 2 sizes too big that had him, had his foot over the 3-point line against the Bucks a few years ago? Then maybe this would be a different conversation. But that's what happened, and the Nets, since they've moved to Brooklyn, have not made it past the second round of the playoffs. As far as worst team in the New York area, the last time the Jets made the playoffs, the Nets were still in New Jersey. So there you go.
I will say this. I mean, the guy I feel bad for on the Nets, there's a player I feel bad for, and that's little brother. Seth is over there keeping his mouth shut, shooting threes, and just like, how did I end up here? How did I have to travel with Simmons and end up here? Thanks a lot. He's a poor guy. Well, I feel bad for him just being in that dumpster fire, because he's a guy I think deserves to be a player on a great team, because that's his skill set, and it's just not happening for him.
I don't know what his contract status is, if he has any kind of free agency coming up soon. Because if he is, he should run like hell out of there.
Yeah, he's like
everybody on that team should.
They probably won't though. But
yeah.
All right, gents. We got one more big topic to break into in this point. This is going to be more of the, I think. There we go.
Curry is a free agent after this year.
Okay.
So he'll be out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, probably. So anyway, JD, turning this over to you, sir. Go ahead, Brandon. What's up?
I said, come to Miami. I didn't want to make that point.
I think that's spot for him.
Thank God.
Seriously.
Thank God I have a team that doesn't engage in this malarkey. Out of all my team, regardless of teams, at least I have one team that is respectable. They know what they're doing, and they're never bad.
Hey, you're a Ranger fan, okay? You still got a team that's got quality.
I know, but that's really the Heat, man. Like,
I gotta say, when Irving requested a trade, I saw some talking heads say, "Oh, the Heat," and I was like, "No, because he ain't Riley ain't taking that garbage."
Spo and Riley are not putting up with that.
Yeah, no, that is not the Heat's culture. Bye, see ya. You don't want to play, you're not here. Later, not happening, not coming. I saw that. I laughed my tuck off.
So, JD, over to you, sir.
Okay, so Seton Hall had two wins this week on the men's side and 2 on the women's side. They beat both teams beat St. John's last week. The women won by 10, and the and the men had a come from behind victory, winning by 12, which it was very impressive for them, even with St. John's self-destruction with Andre Curbelo was he's got a short fuse for St. John's, and Casey Nadefo just pushed his buttons the right way to make him completely lose his cool and get a double technical and thrown out. It was fun to watch, but also Curbelo deserved it. And the women had a second win against Providence on Saturday, and the men had to sweat one out against DePaul yesterday. One of the bottom teams in the Big East. But invariably, it was a trap game. You had the big game on the road against St. John's. They're playing Creighton on Wednesday at home, in a rematch of a game where they got blasted in Omaha last month. So it was easy to look past this game, and they went down big early, something like 15-2 to start. But they came back and then were up by about 15, and then had to sweat it out towards the end, and ultimately winning by 5. But they got the win. That's what matters. As ugly as these 2 wins were, they got the 2 wins they need to. They're now sitting at the men's team is now sitting at 8-5 in the Big East. I think they need to get to 12-8 for the season in order to really be considered for an NCAA berth. You have one more landmine on your schedule, playing Georgetown at home next week. Avoid the landmines, beat up on the bottom feeders, and then they should be in good shape. The real test is playing Creighton on Wednesday, because that'll be a big one at home, and they're playing at Villanova at Wells Fargo Center on Saturday, which, even though Nova isn't what they normally are, that's still a big game. Anytime you have a big game on the road, it's a statement with how much the Seton Hall Villanova battles have gone over the years back and forth. It'll be a catharsis to beat them handily on the road. So we'll see what happens with that. The schedule for the women's team, they're also playing Creighton at home on Tuesday, and they play at Villanova on Saturday, so they're playing double. I wonder if they're taking the same bus. But it was a slow start for Seton Hall this year. They were very disjointed, but that's to be expected because they had a lot of injuries over the summer and didn't really practice as a unit until about a month before the season started. They didn't even have 10 healthy players for most of summer practices and workouts. So the way that Seton Hall's been playing lately, it's starting to look kind of like Shaheen's team at St. Peter's last year, who also got to a very slow start and were, I think, 1-3 in the MAC at one point last year. So it's better to be cold at the start of the season and heat up as the season goes on than to start hot and then fade. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Seton Hall the rest of the way. But this is a huge one with Creighton on Wednesday because they've mostly beaten the teams below them in the standings and haven't done well against the teams ahead of them, aside from when they beat UConn. So beating another top level NCAA level team in the Big East for Seton Hall will be huge test as far as showing if the tourney talk is legit. They're not quite there yet, but they're on their way.
Fair. All right. So covers that, I think. Gentlemen, I don't have anything else unless you guys got something else.
I just had one
LeBron.
more. Yeah, just one more quick. Yeah, just because. Oh man, history. This is history here. So this is a very historical moment or coming up on a very historical moment. And not just basketball, not just NBA, but sports. This is a record that is going to be passed, and a new record will be set and extended as long as he is in the league, for a record that for a long time has stood and people thought to be a very prestigious kind of threshold, where it's Kareem at the 38,876, whatever it is, number. I mean, that was like almost like this dreamlike number, where it was like you had some guys. You remember the Kobe was climbing up the list, and it was a big deal when he passed Mike, and just it really got to a point now with LeBron where I'm really disappointed in the NBA as an entity, because what they have done, I think, to not, I really am convinced that they've gone out of their way to not celebrate this to the utmost degree, because as well as LeBron is playing on the court still, he is still in his 20th year. He is still coming up on 40 years old. And very soon, or I would say but soon, he isn't going to be in the league anymore, just like precious old Mike. And I'm really not sure the NBA fully understands the loss in attention and just so many eyes on what LeBron brought to the league. We talk about what Mike did for the league, but we are really not going to see what LeBron did for this league until he's done. And I think the league should be smart enough to realize that the light at the end of this tunnel is coming. The last train stop is coming with LeBron. Like, we really have to go out of our way and celebrate this, because this is not something that we are going to see. We have these guys that are these 3-point barrages, that guys that can rack up points at a very quick rate, but they're not going to be in the league for 20 plus years. It's just not going, and they're not going to be as sturdy and Iron Man like as LeBron was for the majority of his career. And to the other side of my point, where I'm getting tired, and I've mentioned this so many times, of the NBA having to lash on to Michael Jordan like it's a little kid holding on to his dad's leg, dragging him out of like Six Flags or something, like holding on for dear life. He is already an active owner, okay? So, and that's not good enough. He already... the Jordan brand already makes up about half the jerseys in the league. They got either the Nike patch or the Jordan patch, and about half the league is Jordan. That's not good enough. They got to go out of their way to name a prestigious a basketball award after him, in a sense where the MVP. You don't even have the most MVPs. That doesn't make any sense. Like, if let's just say Aaron Rodgers retired today, and in 5-6 years the NFL came out and said, we're gonna name the Aaron Rodgers MVP award. We'd sit down there and be like, well, Peyton has 5. He has more. So it would seem logical to name the MVP award after the guy that has the most MVPs. I mean, I thought that was kind of like common sense, but no, that's not good enough. We got to have that going. And then this is not the first time something like this has happened. The other day, February 3rd, because it was 2/3/23, the all hallowed number 23, ESPN had to recycle the same Michael Jordan highlights that we've seen for 30 years. All day. Celebrate Michael Jordan 2/3/23 on the precipice of what LeBron is doing.
Those Jordan teats.
And I'm convinced, and it's just I don't get why we have to enhance this legacy when the book is closed. It's done. He isn't doing any more other than owning a terrible team. And it's just and to the other part is a couple years ago during the bubble, during his fourth championship run with the Lakers going up against my Heat. Oh, Michael Jordan just had to release The Last Dance, his holy documentary tell-all testimony of that final year in Chicago, where you had how many years to put that out there? How many years, or how much time after that? See, you could have done it, and they do this to the point where I call it the Jordan GOAT insecurity. And I think this is a real thing that goes around, and I will talk about this in my special that I will have out probably next week. Well, again, this is going to be a major thing. Doing a lot of research. This is going to be some good stuff. And I just think the NBA is really going to be sorry. I don't want to say sorry, but they are going to really, really miss LeBron when he's finished playing. And I just wish they had noticed that now and really appreciate it while he's here. And, I know I'm fighting such an uphill battle, but I can't help it. I can't help it.
So, to respond to you, when you say these things, I kind of think of baseball and Babe Ruth. Somehow, during the steroid era, the one good thing that did happen is the shadow of Babe Ruth finally got pushed away a little bit. Like, Babe Ruth is still a great player, but there's other great players. And so I don't know how long this has to go on, but I don't want to put it on just the NBA. There's a certain amount of old men in the business of sportscasting who grew up on and covered.
Sure, that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there is this mythos that exists that you're right. It's very hard to push out. What is amazing, and I don't know if it's good or bad, is that this mythos does not stick with the NHL, who had a player who was substantially better than everybody else, more than LeBron was substantially better than everybody else during the same time period. The NHL is not on the Gretzky team, as you described it. It's just interesting. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm not judging whether it's good or bad, but I am agreeing with you that it's true. And we saw it happen with Babe Ruth from the 1920s to the early aughts.
At least Jordan is still around. Babe Ruth has been dead for decades, and he still has a hold over baseball. But I think that says more about baseball in general. And that's an interesting point you bring up with the NHL. If anything, Gretzky should be celebrated more than he is. I mean, yes, they retired his number league wide, which the NBA has not done that for Jordan yet. But I know there's talk every few years about them doing that. So that'll probably be the next level of GOAT insecurity.
But seriously though, why should they?
No, I agree. It's dumb.
First, my team, the Heat they retired number 23. I'm not so sure why that deserves to be retired.
Yeah, for somebody who had no connection to the franchise.
No, but not even just any league wide.
Right. No, I think you guys are saying the same thing. There is a certain amount of, break the color barrier, and then we'll, do something that is outside of the sport. If you want,
or Bill Russell retiring.
Russell did a lot.
Right,
off the court to deserve that.
Yes, I feel like that. I agree. You got to do this. Has to over here to make me retire your number on my team. The Bulls, of course, should retire 23.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. Of course, yes.
But I like this this term here, GOAT insecurity, and now we are going to experience it with football, a sport that is
Yeah.
constantly trying to push for the next GOAT. As I like to say, the GOAT now. This is the new GOAT, which of course doesn't make sense, except if you spell it GOTE, the greatest of this era is the actual term GOAT, right? They're already trying to do it with Mahomes, which is interesting because I think that's important. I think you need to get the people who are watching the sport now to believe that they are seeing the best player. I think there is something to be said for that. Like, oh, Mahomes is the best. And with Brady, the nice thing is there's a lot of things you can say where you can say, oh, he's the greatest winner ever, but obviously his on-the-field talents were not as good as even Manning. And like, you could do that about Brady. So the NFL has the advantage if they don't want to get this GOAT envy fear or whatever you're coining it as. Because I do think it's important. I think the people who are watching today should believe they're watching the best player. Scott believes it so much, he left us. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah. And also, not even just LeBron. I think that there's a case to be made for Kobe being better than Jordan. You know, not even to LeBron's level. So, but I think you can make a case for Kobe being just as good, possibly better, depending on who you talk to. So, I think that we're also going to see a lot of the same GOAT insecurity with Voldemort. That is going. Yeah. It's Voldemort will be the shadow over the NFL for the next few decades. No matter they're always try. It's marketing to always try and hype up whoever the best player in the sport is at any given time for marketing and to make people believe, oh, you're seeing one of the best ever, blah, blah, blah. Every sports league in every era has done that to an extent, and the numbers back it up. Where when you don't have one of those clear players, as one of the best ever in the sport at a given time, the sport as a whole usually dips a little bit. Like the NBA did have a noticeable dip after Jordan retired, but
which time?
But it came back. But it comes back. So it's cyclical. All this stuff is, but I agree that the Jordan love is over the top in the NBA, much as it is for Brady in the NFL.
But at least the thing with Brady though is, and even with Joe Montana, who was pretty much regarded as the GOAT before that, there wasn't this like boogeyman kind of over the shoulder thing where it was like, I feel like people were like, you had to say Michael as if he were like watching over you, like he was gonna like do something if you didn't say that.
Yeah,
like that's what I mean. Like, and it's really
say his name 3 times, he'll appear in the mirror behind you.
Yeah, like
I agree with you. I think that goes to JD's point of Kobe. Now I am more of a big fundamental guy, which I think
yes, he also deserves way more credit.
And I think that hurt Kobe's case. But in football, up until now, and we will see how Voldemort's shadow looms. If there were 2 great guys, they were talking about like in the beginning, it was Brady and Manning, where they were talking about, are they better than Elway? Are they better than Montana? And if you said yes, you didn't get killed. And if you say that LeBron, in certain circles, if you want to take the LeBron is better than Jordan argument, no matter what argument you use, like someone will come back and say, well, Jordan is better because of this. And then you say 6, 8, 9. All right. 6 over 7 years, over 8 years, 8, 9. Ask Bill Russell. And by the way, until recently, LeBron never, like, there's arguments for the best parts of Jordan that I agree with Brandon on, that people don't want to hear. They're not. You become an enemy. It becomes almost political, right? And the hate.
Yeah,
if you say LeBron, so in terms of that, I totally agree with Brandon about Jordan. Now, whether I think Jordan or LeBron's a GOAT, that's a different argument, different conversation. But yeah, and the NBA does its best to reinforce that over other things. It's not just and I don't want to get first when I say NBA, for anyone listening, I do mean the greater sports world. But like Bird and Magic. Okay, well, their problem was each other was playing each other. So maybe one of them is better. And if you
Russell versus Wilt.
Russell versus if you listen to sports TikTok about old timers talking, and you hear them talking about Larry Bird, you're like, wait, what? Like you hear them talking about other guys in that 80s era, you're like, wait a second. How did Jordan emerge from this and then just become like the sacred cow? And I think that is a fair argument that that there is a sacred cow. And like you said, JD, I'm very interested to see if Voldemort gets that sacred cow treatment, but there is enough, I think, general hate of him to go around. If he fails that broadcasting, that will really affect his ability to loom like his shadow. Because I did the math on it this week. There is no question, given the extra game and the extra yards per game that he passes, other than injury, Mahomes is going to get the 100,000 yards that Scott was thinking Voldemort. Mahomes is getting 300 yards a game, 17 games a season. So he gets an extra season in 15 years. I mean, it just
like I saw something the other like the number of touchdowns. I think there was something I saw as far as the pace that Mahomes would need to keep up. I think with regard to touchdown passes was he would need to average 50 touchdowns for the next 13 years. Well, he might actually do that.
Right. Yeah. And since I've put it to, I did a whole spreadsheet recently comparing Brady versus the number 2 quarterback in most stats, and the guy who I think, if you're going to say is a GOAT in football, Jerry Rice versus the number 2 guy in most stats. And Brady, first of all, Brady's number 2 is all the same guys named Drew Brees. So he played with them, and it's like sometimes 10% to 3 to 15%. Jerry Rice, except when you get to total touchdowns with Emmitt Smith, but against wide receivers, he's 20 to 30% better than whoever comes in second, usually Larry Fitzgerald. But it's a different beast in comparison. And he stopped playing in the 90s, by the way.
Yeah.
When
early 2000s,
yeah, when it wasn't this, the rest of the guys are all much modern era, and Kelsey and Gronk. So, yeah, let's get off of this, Jordan, because Jordan hears us talking. They're going to get our show canceled.
I think we'll be okay. All right, gentlemen. Anything else?
He's going to crawl out from under my bed.
I would like to make. I have one small little thing. I'd like to make a shout out. Let me see if I can find the actual stuff here. To Samantha Phillip, my podcast partner's daughter. She's a Norwalk basketball player. She's up for the Connecticut Athlete of the Week female athlete.
Nice.
She averaged, the team won 2 games, 2 big games this week. She averaged 24, 5, and 5. So shout out to Samantha. If you're in Connecticut, go find it and vote for her.
All right, gentlemen. That should pretty much do it. Appreciate everything as always. Apologies for the little tiny glitch I just had just a few minutes ago. But JD, thank you. Obi, thank you. Brandon, thank you. I hate your picks when it comes to the Super Bowl, but I accept them as they are. We'll find out next week, actually, who's going to get the bragging rights on this, and it will probably not be me. But, gentlemen, thanks as always.
Wait a second. Time out. If you say it probably won't be me, that means you're not picking the Eagles. You're not picking the Chiefs. You are picking the Eagles. That's what that means.
I'm saying basically my pick is probably not going to be the right one, and you're going to shove it in my face. So,
if the Eagles win, I'm going to give you credit. That's what I was. You said you were probably wrong, which means you're picking with your heart, not with your brain. But you win either way. So
he admits it, though. He admits he's picking with his heart and not his brain.
Right.
Actually, it's more out of contempt than anything else. But really, you make your picks anyway.
I get it. I did the same for every time the Patriots were in the Super Bowl, so I understand.
Yeah. But all right, gents. Thanks as always. I appreciate it. Take care, and stay awesome.